two bent rims on a BMW R80 and stranded in Mexico. Let's talk about that. Let's get cracking. Good Moto morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host, Eric, and on today's episode, we're doing another installment of Ann's Excellent Adventures. This involves a trip to Mexico that goes sideways in a hurry, and there's some morals that we'll kick around at the end of it. So let's get to the story. It's a banger.
I had a friend who lived up in Pomona. Was a guy that rode around on a K1, and
Another rare bike.
was a devil-may-care individual, was always having accidents and wrecks, and things were always going wrong for him because he was always pushing the envelope. But he came to us one day and he said, a couple of my buddies and I are going down and we're going to do a loop around the peninsula down here. And we're not going deep into Mexico, but we're going down the east coast and across, and then come back up the west coast and come back into the United States at San Isidro border crossing, which is, I guess, east of San Diego. And were we interested in going along? Sure, always interested. Hadn't been to Mexico, been with the car, been with the trailer, never went on bikes. So we said, okay, off we go. So I was the only woman in the crowd, as usual, and these guys really didn't want me along. You could tell. It was like, this guy brought his wife. How are we gonna scratch and swear and get drunk with her along? You know, she's gonna spoil the whole thing. So I tried to keep up with them, keep out of their hair, go to bed at night, let them go sit in the bar and do their thing. So we were on the third last day of the trip, and we were coming up towards San Isidro, and there were like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 of us total. And we were riding staggered with 3-second intervals between, and I was behind the daredevil guy right in front of me. And all of a sudden, his saddlebags fell open, both of them, and I saw him hunch and squat down on the seat, and everything in his saddlebags came piling into the air, and he had tie-downs, and the buckles were streaking back towards me, and I was focused on avoiding all of this crap that was coming at me in the air. And the next thing I knew, I hit the same thing he hit, which was a slot-type hole in the pavement. It was maybe 3-4 feet long, and when your tire entered it, your front end was trapped, and when your suspension was compressed, and when you got to the far end, you had no suspension, and you hit the front of this...
The wall of the hole.
The wall of the hole. And when he hit it, he bent his front rim flat, and his tire went flat, and the fall and the jar had opened his saddlebags and dumped all this stuff. I hit the hole 3 seconds after he did, and I rose up out of the hole with my front rim flat and tire blown, and there we sat. They had taken along a Toyota short bed pickup truck to ride chase on us, just in case somebody broke down, Mexico being Mexico. And so sitting there by the side of the road, the guys picked up his K1, put it in the back of the pickup truck, and said, well, that's all we have room for. Good luck, buddy, to flip. And, hope it works out for you, pal. And off they went. And there we sat with my bike just totally disabled. I mean, it was hard to even push it. And I was stunned, because we'd been riding with BMW clubs for years, and we always helped each other. And if it was a calamity, people rallied around and did what they needed to do to help you. This bunch just went off and left us. So after a short amount of time, a stake bed truck came down loaded with trash, painted hot pink. He pulled over and said, "What's the problem, senor?" And Flip said, we need to get this bike up and through customs, and then I'll have to deal with it after we get back in the United States. Flip said, I'll give you $30, 10, 10, 10, if you'll pick it up and take it to the border for me. We were maybe 30 miles from the border. And the guy says, well, first I have to get rid of this trash and I'll come back, senor. So Flip says, okay. So we waited for him a long time, not knowing if he was going to come back or not. Flip said, I don't think he'll pay us up $30. Came back, and no way to get it up into this truck, but it just muscle it. And this was my R80 with the big windscreen, hard to get hold of it, no place to get a hand grip. It was a bitch. So they loaded it in the truck, didn't have any, well, we probably had tie downs. I'm sure Flip never goes anywhere without them. So we found a way to tie it down in the truck, and we rode, and I thought, well, like, the worst is over. Then the guy gets within about 2,000 yards of the border, and he stops, and he says, you get out here. And we said, but it's a long way to the border yet. He says, you push the bike. I don't go any closer to the border. I don't have papers, no passport or anything like that. And he was afraid to go any closer, adamant. So we took the bike out of the thing, and poor Flip left the K with me on the side of the road to guard it so it didn't disappear. This is Mother Mexico. And he pushed that bike all the way up to the border and through the border and left it on the other side, and he walked all the way back to his K. We rode 2 up, back to the border crossing, went through passports, the whole drill. And the customs guy said, what are you going to do with that crippled bike? And Flip said, I don't know, I have to leave it somewhere. We're going to go all the way back to Long Beach and get a car and a trailer and come back for the bike. It's going to be a long day. And the guy said, well, there's a guy with a house over there. It's up a steep hill, kind of on a knob. And he said, I'm sure if you gave him $10, he'd let you park the bike there all day, and he'd probably keep an eye on it for you. So Flip walked up this hill and asked the guy if we could do that. And he said, yeah, sure. So he came back down and he pushed this bike with the flat rim on the front all the way up this dirt hill and parked it in the guy's backyard, walked all the way back down. We rode 2 up all the way back to Long Beach, grabbed something to eat, got a cold drink, hooked the trailer up to the Jag, drove all the way back to the San Ysidro border. It was like 10 o'clock at night by then. Loaded the bike on the trailer, tied it down with the tie downs. The trailer was made for a sidecar rig that we had, an Indian. And so it had 3 rails for the 3 with the sidecar. And so you could always put a bike on the middle rail, and that's what we did. And hauled the thing home to Long Beach. I think we got home like 1 o'clock in the morning from that. Do you know, those guys didn't even call the next day to say, did you get back okay? How did it work out for you? Or are you still sitting in Mexico by the side of the road? Is there anything?
They don't care.
Yeah, I could have shot him. I really could. I thought it was rotten, not in the spirit of motorcycling at all.
It wasn't. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Ann's Excellent Adventures. In this case, it wasn't so excellent, and it was kind of a mess and went sideways in a hurry and wound up getting abandoned by so-called riding friends. So there's a lesson learned in here that when you take a trip, especially out of country or long distance, you better know who you're riding with. So if the you-know-what hits the fan, are they going to bail out on you, or are they going to help find resolve? So this was a very sad situation and a black eye to the motorcycle community, in my opinion. I thank Ann for sharing her life and allowing me to put this on YouTube for posterity, for her grandkids and her great-grandchildren in the future. So thank you for joining us today. Peace.